let me take you back to a night that I can never forget, a night that still lingers in my mind, as vivid as if it happened just yesterday. It was a late October evening, and I had just finished a long shift at work. Tired and eager to get home, I decided to take a shortcut through Eldridge Road. Little did I know, this decision would lead me into an encounter that would haunt me for the rest of my life. Eldridge Road was not like the other streets in our town. It was an old road, surrounded by dense woods and steeped in local legends. People talked about ghost sightings and strange occurrences, but I never gave much credence to these stories until that night. The fog had rolled in thick and fast, enveloping everything in a ghostly blanket. It felt like stepping into another world, a silent, isolated realm where every step seemed amplified. As I ventured further, the eerie stillness of the road was shattered by a sound that sent a shiver down my spine, a faint, sorrowful weeping. It seemed distant, yet disturbingly close. I stopped in my tracks, listening. The weeping continued, a lamentation that seemed to carry the weight of unbearable sadness. I was torn between turning back and finding out the source of such despair. Driven by a mix of fear and curiosity, I moved towards the sound. That's when I saw her, by the side of the road, near an old, gnarled oak tree that looked like it had been there for centuries. A woman dressed in what once must have been a beautiful white gown, now tattered and stained. Her hair was long and unkempt, veiling her face as she wept into her hands. Something about her, the way she seemed lost in her sorrow, captivated and terrified me at the same time. I found myself whispering, "Are you okay?" But she gave no indication that she heard me. Then, as if aware of my presence, she stopped crying and slowly lifted her head. The sight that met me is etched into my memory. Her eyes were hollow, void of life, yet filled with an endless agony. As she raised her gaze to mine, a chill colder than the night air swept through me. Her lips began to move, but no sound came out. It was as if she was trying to communicate a message, but was unable to break through the veil separating the living from whatever realm she belonged to. She then began to drift towards me, her movement unnatural, as if floating. The air around her seemed to distort, growing colder, almost suffocating. Her weeping transformed into wails, a sound so filled with despair that I felt it echo in the very depths of my soul. Fear gripped me, rooting me to the spot. I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't obey. It was only when she was almost upon me, her face inches from mine, that I felt a sudden burst of icy wind. Her wails turned into a spine-chilling scream, piercing the foggy night. That was the moment that broke the spell. I turned and ran as fast as my legs could carry me, her screams ringing in my ears. I didn't dare to look back. The once familiar road now felt like a labyrinth of terror. I didn't stop running until I reached my home, slamming the door behind me, panting and shaking uncontrollably. Since that night, I've never walked Eldridge Road again. The locals say the woman is a spirit bound to that spot, eternally mourning a loss so profound that it anchored her to this world. Some believe she's a harbinger of bad omens, while others think she's searching for someone or something she lost long ago. I don't know what the truth is. All I know is that what I saw and felt that night was real as the fear that clings to me whenever I remember her hollow eyes and mournful cries. It's a memory that haunts me, a reminder that some paths are best left untraveled, and some mysteries are best left unsolved. It was a late rainy evening, the kind where the world seems muted, wrapped in a shroud of mist and silence. I had just finished visiting a friend at the local hospital, a towering building that always seemed to loom over the surrounding area, especially at night. As I made my way out, the rain had transformed into a steady drizzle, creating a rhythmic patter that accompanied my every step. The hospital's parking garage was a sprawling structure of concrete and shadows. It stood detached from the main building, an architectural afterthought that seemed to have a life of its own. I've always felt uneasy in parking garages. Their dim lighting and echoey ambience always set me on edge. But that night, the unease was stronger, more pronounced. As I entered the garage, the rain sound muffled into a distant echo. The fluorescent lights overhead flickered sporadically, casting wavering shadows across the rows of parked cars and the stark concrete pillars. I could hear the dripping of water from some unseen leak, each drop a sharp punctuating note in the garage's eerie symphony. I made my way to where I had parked my car, my footsteps echoing loudly in the empty space. That's when I saw it. A figure standing utterly motionless in the shadows at the far end of the garage. It was as if it were part of the darkness itself, barely distinguishable from the surrounding gloom. For a moment, I thought my mind was playing tricks on me, a byproduct of the late hour and my tired state. But as I continued walking, my gaze fixed on the figure, it became clear that this was no trick of the light. The figure was unnaturally still, almost like a statue. A chill ran down my spine, a primal instinct warning me that something was deeply wrong. I stopped in my tracks, wrestling with the urge to turn around and find another exit. But my curiosity, mixed with a growing sense of dread, propelled me forward. With each step, the figure became more defined. It appeared to be a person, standing with an eerie rigidity, facing away from me and staring blankly at the wall. "Hey, are you okay?" I called out, my voice echoing in the vast space. No response came. The air grew colder as I drew closer, the atmosphere thick with an unnameable tension. I was only a few feet away when the figure began to turn. Time seemed to slow as it faced me. My heart lurched in terror. Where its face should have been, there was only a dark, empty void, a blank expanse of shadow. Panic surged through me, a visceral response to something so fundamentally unnatural. The figure started moving towards me, its movements smooth and silent, devoid of the natural rhythm of human motion. It glided over the concrete floor, a specter in the dim light. As it drew nearer, the overhead lights flickered more violently, casting disorienting, dancing shadows that played tricks on my eyes. In a moment of pure instinct, I turned and ran. The sound of my footsteps was deafening in my ears, a frantic drumbeat urging me to escape. I didn't dare look back, my mind filled with images of the faceless figure silently pursuing me. I ran until I burst out into the rain, the cool air feeling like a reprieve from an unseen terror. I drove home that night, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. The image of the faceless figure burned into my mind. Since that encounter, I've avoided the hospital parking garage, taking any excuse to park elsewhere or avoid the hospital altogether. Rumors say the figure is the spirit of someone who died tragically in the hospital, bound to the parking garage, a place of transitions and departures. Others believe it's a guardian of the threshold between life and death. I don't know what to believe. All I know is that what I experienced in the parking garage was real, an encounter with something beyond the realm of the living. My encounters with sleep paralysis began in 2019 during my college years at a religious institution. The school, dormitories, and church were all part of one sprawling, secluded compound. The atmosphere was serene yet somewhat isolated, an environment that seemed to blur the lines between the physical and the spiritual. I shared a dorm room with 11 other girls. Our routine was unwavering. Every night at 9 p.m., we gathered in a circle for our evening prayer. It was a time of reflection and unity, but one night, I felt unusually lethargic and uninterested. Pretending to be asleep, I lay in my bunk bed, facing upwards, while the others congregated on the floor. As the leader of the prayer began with, "Dear God in heaven," a peculiar sensation overcame me. It was as if an invisible force had enveloped my body, rendering it numb and immobile. The sensation wasn't just physical. It felt as though my very soul was being drawn into a vortex of cloudiness and confusion. I could vaguely hear the prayers continuing, their words muffled as if echoing from a distant place. When the prayer concluded, I was still trapped in this paralyzing state. wasn't until my friend noticed my distress and shook me vigorously that I snapped out of it. The fear and confusion were palpable among us, casting a shadow over the rest of the night. Following that incident, my episodes of sleep paralysis became more frequent, particularly when I slept on my back. It reached a point where I could almost anticipate its onset, signaled by a distinct low bass drum sound echoing in my mind. Whenever I heard it, I'd fight to stay awake, knowing what awaited me in the clutches of paralysis. During these episodes, I was acutely aware of my surroundings, yet something was always amiss. It was as though I was in the same room, yet in a parallel, sinister reality. The presence of something malevolent was undeniable. One particularly harrowing night, I experienced it while sleeping beside my husband. Upon opening my eyes, everything appeared darker, the walls subtly distorted. The sensation of being watched was overwhelming. Desperately, I tried to wake my husband, but he was unresponsive, as if locked in a different reality. That's when the terrifying realization set in. I was in the throes of sleep paralysis again. To my horror, my husband transformed before my eyes, his figure morphing into a female entity radiating pure evil. I was paralyzed with fear, my attempts to scream or pray met with chilling laughter from this demonic apparition. She taunted me, declaring my prayers futile. It was an intense struggle, but eventually I managed to break free from the paralysis. Since then, I never sleep on my back, haunted by the fear of experiencing such terror again. My sister, aware of my struggles, suspects that an evil presence from the religious school grounds attached itself to me. Her theory isn't entirely unfounded. I later discovered that the land on which our school stood was once part of World War battlegrounds in Manila, with numerous lost souls buried beneath. Whether these restless spirits are connected to my sleep paralysis, I cannot say for certain, but the coincidence is chilling. Every episode leaves me questioning the boundaries between our world and the unseen realms that coexist with us. My journey through sleep paralysis has been a terrifying window into the unknown, a reminder that there are mysteries in this world beyond our understanding or control. If you've ever brushed against the unknown, felt the chill of the unexplained, or encountered the shadows that walk among us, I invite you to share your experiences in the comments below. Your stories are not just tales. They are affirmations that we are not alone in our encounters with the paranormal. Remember to like and subscribe for more journeys into the heart of mystery. Hit the notification bell. It's your gateway to new chilling stories, each unfolding the unknown corners of our world. Every like, every share, and every comment shapes our community, drawing us together in our quest to explore the unexplained. And as you navigate through the complexities of your daily life, remember this encounter. Let it be a gentle reminder to be wary of the paths you choose at night, of the shadows that linger just beyond the reach of light. There's a world that exists parallel to ours, one that breathes and watches in silence, occasionally crossing into our realm in ways we can barely comprehend. So, the next time you find yourself alone on a deserted street, in an empty parking lot, or walking a dimly lit road, pause for a moment. Listen to the whispers of the night, feel the subtle shift in the air, and remember, our world is a tapestry of stories, some visible, some hidden in the shadows. It's in these shadows that our tales of the paranormal find their home. Stay curious, stay brave, and most importantly, stay connected with us here at the Witnessed Horror. Until our next eerie tale, keep your eyes open and your mind questioning. Who knows what mysteries will unravel next?